It's Paul Marsh, and I'm delighted to say that I've been joined by Olivier Assayas to talk about The Wizard of the Kremlin. Olivier, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Comment ça va?
Ça va très bien, merci beaucoup.
And that is the end of my French.
I knew it. I guessed.
Our schools only teach us so much. So let's talk about the film. Well, before we talk about the film, let's talk about the book. When did you first read The Wizard of the Kremlin, and what made you think that I have to make this film?
I think I was among the first readers of this book because it was published. It was written in French by an Swiss Italian writer, and he for some reason he liked my film Carlos. So when the book was published in France first, I mean before it was even in the stalls, he sent it to me saying, eventually if a movie happens, would you be interested? That was the message. It was not, it was a little bit more diplomatic, but more or less that was his message. I read the book. I read the book very early because the subject was interesting, but because it was also something I was not so familiar with. I read the book, loved the book, thought it was a great job, and I called Giuliano to tell him that this was not for me.
Oh, wow.
That I had no idea how to handle it. I was and I had a it's I don't speak Russian. I'm not so familiar with the post-Soviet Russian politics, and this was a movie that was happening in Russia, and there was no way we would be allowed to shoot in Russia. It should be spoken in Russian, and no way Russian actors would do it. I mean, it has trouble written all over it. Just like major trouble. So I said, and as much as I admire the book, maybe try someone else.
How did you get over those stumbling blocks?
The stumbling block is that it's very banal. Are you familiar with with my co-writer, my co-screenwriter, Emmanuel Carrère?
Unfortunately not.
Or not. He's big deal in France, and he's from a Russian family
Okay.
living in France, and he's been a friend forever. He knew much more than I do, of course, about Russian politics. And we have the same agent, and he kind of he came back to me, said, this book, Wizard of the Kremlin, it's becoming some sort of runaway hit. I mean, it's they're selling it like by the ton. So would you reconsider your position? And I said, well, I'm not sure I can at this point. I'm ready for that. So why don't you try and discuss it with our friend Emmanuel, because he loves the book, and maybe the two of you could function together. And we have been friends forever. We had been friends forever. So I said, okay, we can have a shot at it. Meaning, it was not a big commitment. It was like I will work for a week with Emmanuel, and if at the end of the week we have found the algorithm of the movie within the book, we'll go further. But at this stage, I just don't commit more than a week of my time. And then we sat down with Emmanuel and started just thinking about the issues and discussing it very loosely. And after a few days, I mean, we kind of enjoyed working together. We had found acceptable solution for the main for the main problems. Things were on the right track. So I started to accept the idea that I was going to go through this mess, and I will make I potentially will make a film.
Well, the film has been made. obviously. Let me talk about the cast because there must have been a decision with the cast as well as do we go for unknowns who maybe look like their characters or like you say, obviously Russian and
I get that question once in a while, but I always have to remind, everybody of the sad truths of the economics of filmmaking, which can be a burden. It's when you make a movie about Russian spoken. You will not find a lot of money to finance it. I mean,
no.
I mean, the Russian actors will not do it. I mean, the famous Russian actors will not do it because it would mean that they would be banned from working ever again in Russia. And we could make it with Russian unknowns, but with Russian unknowns, the film doesn't get financed. So you have to make hard choices, and the hard choices was, do you accept to make this film in English with an English speaking cast, even if it's not true to reality? Meaning, either are you ready to make that concession to make the film happen, or you're not. And I thought there was potential for at that point. I thought there was potential for a great film. And it's worth having a shot at it. And so let's skip that problem and try to make the best possible movie.
Well, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when somebody called Jude Law and said, "Would you like to play Vladimir Putin?"
Well, the process was not that difficult. We knew each other. I was lucky to be part of the same jury than Jude in Cannes years ago. We got along like really well. We loved the same movies. We shared the very similar tastes, and we were buddies. And once in a while, he would send me a message saying, I'm producing this or that. Would you be interested? Is it something that? And we never found the right material. And here, I thought there was potentially the right material. I mean, what great actors like, and Jude is one of the greatest, is a challenge. It's doing what you've already done a million times. What for? I mean, what is there in it for me? It's so here there was something that was genuinely difficult, that was genuinely dangerous, that was genuinely scary. I mean, I'm talking from my point of view. I mean, that's how I would have reacted. But I think that for an actor, it's uh, it's exciting. It kind of reminds you of the basics of your job. Is taking chances, and instead of catering to the same crowd or with the same part all the time. Jude likes to transform himself, to reinvent himself, to go in difficult, weird places. I mean, and he's so generous and so smart and so sophisticated in the way he approaches his parts. So there was something there for him. So he very very early on he was on board. I mean, it's not like we had to struggle, twist his arm to get him into the film. I think he liked the idea. I liked the idea, and it was not a difficult decision. It was a no-brainer.
I think the thing is obviously when you're making, let's say, for example, a World War II project, and you talk about, well, this was 80 years ago, this is 90 years ago, you're not going to be offending too many people that are still alive today. Whereas obviously with this, especially with what's going on at the moment with Russia and Ukraine and everything else like that, you are casting very politically sensitive roles. Were there any conversations with any of the actors and the legalities and all of the other bits and pieces of
Well,
that?
it's um, I have already made movies about real life characters. When I made Carlos, they were, you know, just German terrorists, and a lot of them were still alive. I met a couple of them
Oh,
actually.
wow.
And same thing when I did Wasp Network about about Cuban spies in Miami. Uh, so I kind of had the notion of how to handle that. I mean, in a sense that I knew this was not going to make Vladimir Putin very happy, but but then, you know, I don't think he even I think he has, I don't think he watches movies, but maybe he does. Who knows? You know, you never know. Don't never underestimate the narcissism of politicians. You know, it's. Uh, we, there was he's a public character. He's a politician,
Yeah.
you know. So you can fictionalize him the same way William Shakespeare would fictionalize the you know the kings and queens of his time. It's you, but then when you're dealing with characters like Mikhail Khodorkovsky or Boris Berezovsky, they are real life characters, and so you have to be careful what you say and what you don't say, etc. So in the case of Khodorkovsky, we completely he's alive, he's active, he's an active opponent to the Russian regime. He's a good guy. We don't want to offend him or to do anything that might displease him. So we changed the name, we made it, we whitewashed it as much as
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
could. Berezovsky, I only have good things to say about him, even if he's a crook. But he's dead. He's a dead crook. You're allowed more or less to fictionalize him
Yes.
and use his name. So you know, there. I mean, as long as you follow specific rules. And the lawyer reads the screenplay before you start shooting, you can get away with a lot.
Obviously, the story is told roughly over 15 years. The film stands at just over 2 hours. How long was the first cut of the film? Because I can imagine.
The film is yeah, the first cut was 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that.
Oh, okay. I was expecting you to say 5, 6 hours because
No, no.
how do you squeeze 15 years down to 2 hours?
Well, because it's there are ellipses. I don't know. Is that the right? Did you say
Yeah.
that in English?
Yep.
Ellipses.
Yep.
There are big ellipses, and we focus on specific moments. We simplify the story. It's we had I mean. It was the length of the film was never an issue to say the truth. I mean, you know, it's the we screened the film for the first time in Venice. At that point, it was like in the 2.5 hour range. It was too long. But we had to speed the editing to be ready to be ready on time for the Venice Film Festival. I did my job. I finished the first version, and I finished the first version and screened it in Venice. But after the deal was that I could make a few more cuts and tweaks here and the tweak this of that, this of that after Venice. And that's what I did, and that's the version that was released in France, and which is my version.
I don't know how you do it because I have the same thing with an interview, obviously. These interviews will go out on all of the media. They'll go out on radio, they'll go out on podcasts and YouTube, they go out everywhere. And obviously with radio, we have to cut it down. We have to cut it down to around about 10 minutes. So I have to
Mhm.
sit and decide a 15 to 20-minute interview that I have to cut down to 10 minutes.
Yes.
And I hate it because I always think there's so much good stuff, good questions, good answers, and I hate cutting it. So I don't know how you cut that down. I just don't know how you do it.
Yeah, it's it's the famous who said that? Dashiell Hammett said that. Yeah, it's like just kill your darlings. Yeah. I mean, making movies is making hard choices.
Yeah, I've seen lots of reactions online, and the funny thing is I've seen both sides. I've seen some people saying this film is Russian propaganda, and I've seen some people saying it's anti-Russian. I think you're never going to win with a film like this, are you? It's always going to create
Yeah. Well,
controversy.
I suppose that if you have people on both sides and you're in the middle, maybe you're doing something right. I mean, I personally am definitely not a pro-Putin person. I think he embodies evil for our times. So there's zero ambiguity. After you read stuff in your movies, it's out of control. All of a sudden, just because people get wild and say crazy things, and you have no control on it. It's all over the internet. What are you going to do? I mean, once in a while, I'm lucky. I'm getting I'm getting a question like yours, and it allows me to at least clarify my politics. That people don't suspect me. I'm some kind of Russian spy or something.
Did your view change from before you read the book for the very first time to now where you stand? Has your view changed? Do you understand things differently? Do you look at things differently?
Uh, you know, when I read the book, Russia had already invaded Crimea,
Premier, yeah.
and the south of Donbass. So no, I mean, and I always, Vladimir Putin had already begun killing opponents and so on and so forth. So he was already the extremely dislikable person he was. So my politics have not really changed much after I made the film. I mean, I was, because no, because the thing is that my concern when I was making the film is that history changes fast. It evolves fast. So I'm now making a movie about events that happened 15 years ago, but ultimately the situation has not changed that much. It may change. It's going to change.
Yeah.
And while we're making the film, while we are editing it, or when the film is released, something will happen that will change the face of that war and we will look ridiculous. And instead, what happened is that the more time was passing, the more the book seemed prescient and nothing of what I feared happened. I mean, the film not only stayed. It's not just that it stayed relevant. It was always relevant, but it became even more reluctant with the passing of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that any film that you walk out of and you have to discuss immediately, I
Mm.
think that's literally what cinema has been made for. And I think that your film does exactly that. Olivier, thank you so much for talking to me. I really do appreciate it. The
It-
Wizard of Kremlin is in UK and Irish cinemas from the 17th of April. I wish you nothing but luck with it.
Fingers crossed. Thank you.